Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are exploring one of Oscar Wilde's most poetic, emotional and tragic short stories, The Nightingale and the Rose. At first glance, this story feels like a gentle fairy tale filled with birds, flowers, moonlight and love. But beneath this beauty lies a painful truth about human nature. In this lesson, we will first look at a clear and simple summary, and then carefully analyze the story using the key elements of prose. By the end of this lesson, you will understand why this story is not just about love, but about sacrifice, misunderstanding, and emotional blindness. Let's begin with the story itself. First, let's understand what happens in the story. The story opens with a young student who is deeply in love. He believes that love is the most important and beautiful thing in the world. The girl he loves has promised to dance with him at a ball, but only if he brings her a red rose. Unfortunately, there is no red rose in his garden, and this small problem makes him completely miserable. To him, happiness depends entirely on this single flower. A nightingale, listening from a tree, hears his sorrow. She believes she has finally discovered a true lover, someone who understands love deeply. Determined to help him, she searches for a red rose. Eventually, she learns that the rose can be created only through a terrible sacrifice. She must press her heart against a thorn and sing until her lifeblood colors the rose red. Believing that love is greater than life, the nightingale accepts death willingly. The next morning, the student finds the rose and rushes to the girl. However, she rejects it, choosing jewels and social status instead. Angry and disappointed, the student throws the rose away and declares that love is foolish and impractical. He returns to his books and philosophy, completely forgetting the sacrifice made for him. The nightingale dies, unnoticed, unappreciated, and forgotten. Now, let's understand the nature of this story. To understand the deeper meaning of this story, we analyze it using 6 important elements of prose. These elements help us see how the story is built, how emotions are created, and how the moral message is delivered. Let's explore each element one by one. Let's begin with the characters. The student talks beautifully about love, poetry, and philosophy. But when tested, he fails to recognize true sacrifice. He desires love, but he does not understand its depth. The nightingale represents pure, unconditional love. She gives everything without expecting anything in return. The girl represents materialism. She values wealth, appearance, and status over emotion. The voices of nature, the lizard, butterfly, tree, and moon help Wilde show irony. Nature understands love, but humans do not. Now, let's look at where the story takes place. The story is set in a beautiful natural environment. Gardens, trees, moonlight, and birds. This peaceful setting creates a fairy tale mood. However, this beauty strongly contrasts with human selfishness and emotional coldness. Nature supports love and sacrifice, while humans destroy it. The setting quietly supports the moral message of the story. Next, let's examine the plot structure. The plot of The Nightingale and the Rose follows the 5 stages of plot development very clearly, guiding the reader from hope to deep disappointment. Let's look at each stage carefully. First comes the exposition. We are introduced to the young student, his romantic ideas, and his belief in love. We learn that he can win the girl's affection only by bringing her a red rose. At this stage, the mood is emotional but still hopeful. Then the rising action begins. The nightingale hears the student's sorrow and decides to help him. She flies from one rose tree to another, searching desperately for a red rose. Finally, she learns the terrible truth. The rose can be created only through death and sacrifice. Tension slowly increases as the cost of love becomes clear. The climax is the most intense and emotional moment of the story. On a silent, moonlit night, the nightingale presses her heart against a thorn. She sings all night as her lifeblood flows into the rose. This moment represents the highest point of sacrifice, where love reaches its peak through death. Next comes the falling action. The nightingale dies, and the rose is finally complete. The student finds the rose and offers it to the girl, believing his dream will come true. Instead, the girl rejects it, choosing jewels and wealth over love. Hope begins to collapse. Finally, the resolution brings the story to a bitter end. The student throws the rose away and declares that love is useless and impractical. He returns to philosophy and logic, forgetting the nightingale completely. The story ends in deep irony. True love dies, unnoticed and unvalued. The plot ends quietly, but its message remains powerful and disturbing. Now that we understand how the story is structured, let's explore the deeper themes behind it. The central theme is sacrifice for love. Wilde shows that pure love often suffers in a selfish world. The story criticizes materialism and emotional shallowness. It reminds us that true love is rare and often ignored. Next, let's consider how the story is told. The third-person narrator allows us to see all sides of the story. We understand the student's thoughts, the nightingale's emotions, and nature's reaction. This helps highlight irony and moral contrast clearly. Finally, let's examine Oscar Wilde's style. Oscar Wilde's style is poetic and symbolic. The rose represents love. The thorn represents pain. The blood represents sacrifice. Irony strengthens the tragedy. The fairy tale structure makes the message both beautiful and painful. Let's conclude with the message of the story. The nightingale and the rose teaches us a painful truth. True love may give everything, yet still remain unseen and unvalued. Oscar Wilde reminds us that love without understanding becomes tragedy. As readers, we are asked to reflect. Do we recognize sacrifice or do we ignore it? Thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe for more meaningful English literature lessons.